I was 75, and every step felt like fire in my knees. They clicked, burned, and locked up without warning. Doctors said it was just aging, but I refused to accept that pain was my new normal. What happened next shocked even me. Today, I walk without pain, and here's exactly how I did it. Part 1. The pain that crept in quietly. At first, it was just a soft clicking sound. Nothing painful, nothing alarming, just a small sound in my knees when I bent down to pick something up or stood up from a chair. I dismissed it, thinking it was just part of growing older. But soon, it wasn't just the clicking. A faint burning sensation began to follow it, especially at night when I tried to sleep. The warmth in my knees turned into heat. And then pain. I was 75, and up until then, I had prided myself on staying active. I walked every morning. I did simple stretches. I ate reasonably well. But none of that seemed to stop what was happening. My knees began to feel stiff, tight, like rubber bands pulled too far. Climbing stairs took longer. Getting out of a car became a negotiation with my body. And every time I stood up, I braced for the sound, the stiffness, the heat. Doctors told me it was just aging. Wear and tear, one orthopedic specialist said, waving his hand like it was expected. They offered me pain relievers. One suggested a cortisone shot. Another hinted at knee replacement. But I didn't want more pills. I didn't want surgery. I wanted something that wouldn't just mask the symptoms. I wanted to fix the real issue, if that was even possible at my age. Part 2. Inflammation was the enemy. I began reading. Watching videos. Listening to podcasts by health experts and doctors who weren't satisfied with just writing prescriptions. That's when I came across the word inflammation. It was everywhere. Silent inflammation, chronic inflammation, low-grade inflammation. Every joint issue, every mobility problem, so many of them led back to this word. And suddenly it all made sense. The heat I felt in my knees wasn't just in my head, it was my body's response to something deeper. The clicking? That was cartilage wearing down. The stiffness? That was swelling in the tissues. The pain? That was my joints crying out for help. I learned that inflammation wasn't just a response to injury. In older adults, it can become a constant condition, simmering quietly in the background. And when it sticks around too long, it starts breaking things down, cartilage, ligaments, even bone density. I started tracking what I was eating. Bread, processed snacks, red meat, all things I enjoyed in moderation. But many were rich in omega-6 oils, preservatives, and sugars, ingredients known to fuel inflammation. My diet, although not horrible, wasn't helping me heal. It was feeding the fire. I felt frustrated. At 75, could I really reverse something that had taken years to develop? Could simple changes make a difference? Part 3. The day I discovered the turmeric mix. Then came the moment I remember vividly. I was watching an interview with a holistic physician who specialized in geriatric inflammation. He wasn't selling supplements. He was talking about roots. Specifically, turmeric. He spoke about curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, and how it had been studied for its powerful anti-inflammatory effects. But what really caught my attention was something he said. Turmeric alone won't save your knees. But turmeric combined with the right ingredients can absolutely transform how your joints feel. That made me pause. I had tried turmeric tea before, and I didn't notice a difference. But he went on to explain that turmeric needs support. Black pepper, he said, contains piperine, which helps your body absorb curcumin better, by up to 2,000%. Fats like olive oil or coconut oil also help turmeric enter the bloodstream more effectively. He shared a simple anti-inflammatory mix. 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric. A pinch of black pepper. 1 teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil. A squeeze of lemon juice. Warm water to mix. He called it a daily tonic. Drink it once a day, on an empty stomach, he said. Don't expect overnight miracles, but in 3 weeks, you'll know something's changed. I was skeptical, but desperate. So I wrote it down. I started the next morning. And what followed changed my life more than I could have ever imagined. Part 4. The first week, listening to my body. The first day I drank the turmeric mix, I noticed nothing. No sudden relief. No magic. But I didn't expect one either. I reminded myself that this wasn't a pill, this was nourishment, something real my body could actually use to heal itself. By the third day, something strange happened. It wasn't that the pain disappeared, but my knees felt a bit less tight when I got up from bed. The stiffness lasted a little shorter. I could stand up without bracing myself on both arms. I brushed it off at first, maybe it was just a good day. But I kept going. Every morning, turmeric, black pepper, olive oil, lemon, warm water. I stirred it slowly. The taste was earthy, a little spicy. Not unpleasant. More importantly, it became a ritual, a signal to my body that I was giving it what it needed. I also added small changes. I switched my usual white toast to sprouted grain bread. I cut out sugary drinks. I added more greens and berries, things I learned were powerful anti-inflammatory agents. By the end of the first week, I realized something that brought tears to my eyes. I had gone 3 straight nights without waking up from the burning sensation in my knees. For months, I had tossed and turned, trying to find a position that didn't hurt. But now, I was sleeping through the night. Part 5. Week 2, the power of circulation. In the second week, I started noticing something else. Not only was the pain beginning to recede, but my legs felt warmer. Not in a burning way. In a nourished way. Like blood was flowing properly again. This made me curious. I went back to my research. I learned that turmeric doesn't just fight inflammation, it also supports blood circulation, especially when paired with black pepper. Good circulation means better oxygen and nutrient delivery to tissues. That means healing. I added a few more ingredients to my routine. A small slice of fresh ginger with the turmeric drink. Handful of blueberries at breakfast. A sprinkle of chia seeds in my oats. These weren't exotic supplements. They were regular, real foods with real science behind them. I also began taking short walks after meals, not power walks, just slow strolls to keep the blood moving. At first, my legs still felt a little heavy. But after 3 or 4 days, they loosened up. One day, I walked for 25 minutes straight and realized when I got home that I hadn't felt a single jolt of pain in either knee. It felt unreal. But it was happening. My body wasn't just surviving anymore. It was recovering. Part 6. Week 3, Strength from Within. Week 3 was when I truly started to feel different, not just physically, but mentally. The stiffness that once defined my mornings was now a distant memory. I could bend down, pick up something off the floor, and rise without groaning. I started feeling a lightness in my legs that I hadn't felt in years. That's when I began doing light squats, just 5 reps, using a chair for support. Slowly. Carefully. But the strength was returning. What surprised me most was what I learned during this time. Cartilage doesn't simply regrow like muscle, but it can be protected, cushioned, and even partially rebuilt through the right combination of nutrients. I added these foods to my meals. Collagen-rich bone broth, twice a week. Vitamin C-rich fruits like oranges and kiwi. Omega-3 sources like flax seeds and walnuts. I also ensured I was drinking enough water. Hydration is key for keeping joints lubricated. The turmeric mix remained my foundation. I drank it every morning. I never skipped it. And each time, I thought of it not as a remedy, but as a signal to my body that healing was possible. 3 weeks earlier, I had sat on my couch wondering if I'd ever walk freely again. Now, I was walking to the park, standing in the kitchen without pressure, sleeping through the night, and waking up without fear of that painful burn. I hadn't just reduced inflammation, I had rediscovered mobility. Part 7. Facing skepticism and staying the course. Around this time, I started telling close friends and family about what I was doing. Some were intrigued. Others raised eyebrows. "You really think turmeric is doing all that?" one of them asked. "Isn't that just a spice for curry?" I didn't blame them for being skeptical. We've grown up believing that healing comes from prescriptions, not the kitchen. But I didn't argue. I just invited them to observe. Every week, I showed up a little straighter. My steps were more confident. I could stand through an entire conversation without shifting weight from one leg to another. I could carry groceries without wincing. Even my doctor noticed. During my monthly visit, I walked in without a cane. He blinked and said, "What have you been doing differently?" When I explained the turmeric mix, the dietary changes, the walking, and the simple routines, I expected dismissal. But he nodded slowly. "There's a lot of evidence for what you're saying," he admitted. "I've seen worse knees with better outcomes through consistent lifestyle change. Keep going." That's when I knew I wasn't imagining this. Something powerful was happening. Part 8. Mobility exercises that made the difference. By the 4th week, the pain had diminished enough for me to introduce some specific mobility movements. My goal wasn't to become an athlete. It was simply to restore what life had quietly stolen: freedom of movement. Here are 3 exercises I did every other day. 1. Seated leg extensions. Sitting on a chair, I slowly extended one leg out in front of me and held it for 5 seconds before lowering it. 10 reps on each side. This helped wake up my quadriceps, essential muscles that support the knee. 2. Heel slides. Lying on my back with knees bent, I slowly slid one heel forward to straighten the leg, then back in. It gently mobilized my knees without straining them. 3. Standing calf raises. Holding onto a wall, I raised up on my toes and slowly lowered down. This strengthened the calves and improved ankle stability, helping with overall leg balance. I wasn't forcing anything. If my knees felt sore, I rested. But if they felt strong, I moved with them. The turmeric drink gave me relief. But these movements gave me control. I could feel my muscles getting stronger, supporting my joints better. The fear of sudden pain while moving began to disappear. Part 9. The emotional shift: freedom in the smallest wins. The physical changes were undeniable. But what touched me even deeper was the emotional shift. You don't realize how much chronic pain wears down your spirit until it starts to lift. For months, I had planned my days around my knees: how far I could walk, how long I could stand, how many stairs I could avoid. Now, I was walking to the mailbox without thinking about it. I was taking my grandson to the park and sitting on a bench without having to shift every 5 minutes. One morning, I got out of bed and started walking, and halfway through the hallway, I stopped. Something was different. I wasn't limping. That realization hit me harder than any pain ever had. I stood there in my pajamas, tears in my eyes. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was returning to life. Not because of an expensive injection or surgery. But because I chose to nourish my body, trust the process, and give it time. Turmeric didn't change my life in one day. But it became the catalyst that made healing possible. Now I understood, real transformation doesn't come from what you do once, it comes from what you do every single day with patience and belief. Part 10. The natural supplements that helped even more. Once I had established a routine with turmeric and gentle mobility, I began looking into additional natural remedies to support my joints. I wasn't interested in prescription medications unless absolutely necessary. I wanted to give my body what it truly needed to heal itself. After days of research and several consultations with a functional medicine practitioner, I landed on 3 supplements that played a big role in my continued recovery. 1. Boswellia serrata, Indian frankincense. This ancient herb had been used for centuries for inflammation and joint pain. Unlike over-the-counter anti-inflammatories, Boswellia didn't upset my stomach. I took 300 milligrams daily and noticed even less swelling around my knees within a few weeks. 2. Collagen peptides, type 2. Collagen is the protein that helps maintain the integrity of cartilage, the cushioning in our joints. I began adding a scoop of hydrolyzed collagen to my morning tea. It had no taste and mixed easily. Over time, I felt a noticeable difference in the grinding sensation that used to happen when I climbed stairs. 3. Vitamin D3 with K2. My tests had shown a slight deficiency in vitamin D. That's common for older adults, especially those who don't spend much time in the sun. But vitamin D alone isn't enough. It needs K2 to direct calcium to the bones and not to the joints or arteries. I took this combo daily and, interestingly, began sleeping better too. These supplements weren't miracles, but they filled in nutritional gaps that were slowing down my recovery. When used alongside turmeric and exercise, they became part of a synergistic healing plan. Part 11. How I handled flare UPS without painkillers. Even with all this progress, I'd occasionally have bad days. Maybe I overdid the walking. Maybe the weather was colder. Sometimes, pain would return, not like before, but enough to be noticeable. But here's what changed: I didn't panic. I had learned how to manage these flare-ups naturally. 1. Warm Epsom salt soaks. I'd fill a basin with warm water and 2 handfuls of Epsom salts, then soak my legs for 20 minutes. The magnesium helped calm muscle tension and reduce inflammation. It also gave me a moment to just breathe and relax. 2. Anti-inflammatory herbal tea. Instead of reaching for painkillers, I brewed ginger and turmeric tea with a pinch of black pepper and raw honey. It soothed both the joints and the soul. 3. Gentle yoga or stretching. Some days, I skipped walking altogether and just did light stretching, focusing on hips, calves, and hamstrings. Keeping the surrounding muscles loose helped ease pressure off my knees. These flare-ups became less frequent. But more importantly, they stopped feeling like setbacks. They were just signals. My body was saying, "Take it easy today." And I listened. Part 12. Teaching others, and becoming a quiet example. As the months passed, people started noticing. Neighbors saw me on my morning walks and asked, "Weren't you the one who used a cane last year?" At the community center, someone tapped my shoulder and whispered, "Your posture is amazing for someone your age. What's your secret?" That's when I realized my story wasn't just about my knees. It was about showing others what's possible when you stop accepting pain as a life sentence. I didn't become a fitness coach. I didn't start preaching. I just shared, quietly and honestly. I printed out my turmeric mix recipe for a woman at church. I explained the collagen supplement to a friend with hip pain. I walked an extra lap with my cousin during a family picnic just so we could talk about vitamin D. People don't need perfect advice. They need real stories. They need to see that even at 75, you can reverse what seems irreversible. And now, as I help others, I feel a deeper healing in myself, not just physical, but emotional. Because pain isolates you. But healing connects you. Part 13. The foods I gave up without looking back. Changing what I added to my routine was only half the battle. What truly transformed my knee health, and overall well-being, was what I removed from my diet. You see, some foods were silently fueling my inflammation, stiffening my joints, and making every step harder than it needed to be. Giving them up wasn't easy at first, but once I saw the difference, I never looked back. Here's what I cut out completely. 1. Refined sugars and sweetened snacks. I love my evening cookies and sweet tea. But I learned that excess sugar triggers the release of cytokines, proteins that worsen joint inflammation. Every bite was contributing to my knee pain. I replaced them with berries and a small square of dark chocolate when I craved something sweet. And slowly, the sugar cravings faded. 2. Processed meats. Bacon, sausages, deli slices, these were staples in my freezer. But I had no idea how much sodium, nitrates, and preservatives they carried. These compounds don't just harm the heart, they inflame the joints. I switched to grilled chicken, lentil patties, and wild-caught fish. Within weeks, I noticed less stiffness after waking. 3. White bread and pasta. Refined grains cause blood sugar spikes and joint flare-ups, especially in older adults. I swapped white bread for whole grain or sprouted bread. And instead of pasta, I explored quinoa, millet, or zucchini noodles. This one shift made my digestion smoother and gave me more sustained energy during walks. When I combined these dietary removals with my turmeric mix and supplements, my knees felt lighter. Not cured, but unburdened. Part 14. Unexpected wins, energy, sleep, and confidence. While I initially set out to fix my knees, I ended up improving so many areas of my life that I hadn't even realized were struggling. 1. I was sleeping like a child. Chronic pain had made restful sleep nearly impossible. I used to toss and turn all night, wincing every time I changed position. But after 4 to 6 weeks of my new routine, I was falling asleep faster and waking up refreshed. The turmeric's calming effect, the magnesium from Epsom soaks, and my reduced sugar intake were likely all helping. Sleep became my new favorite therapy. 2. I had real, consistent energy again. I no longer needed to nap midday. My focus improved. I could walk longer distances without needing to sit every 10 minutes. There was a time when just going to the store felt like climbing a mountain. Now, I was loading groceries into the car without help. That shift didn't just improve my independence, it brought back my dignity. 3. My confidence came roaring back. When you live with pain, you start shrinking your life. You say no to invitations. You avoid outings. You sit out from family hikes or weddings. But now, I was saying yes again. Yes to morning walks. Yes to standing for longer conversations. Yes to dancing a little at my niece's wedding. That joy, that spark, it returns when your body stops being your burden and starts becoming your partner again. Part 15. The daily routine I still follow. Even today, I follow a simple daily routine to keep my knees strong, my joints supple, and my body balanced. It's not complicated, but consistency is everything. Here's what my typical day looks like. Morning. Wake up and drink warm water with lemon. 15 minutes of stretching, mostly focused on hamstrings, calves, and hip flexors. My turmeric mix drink. A 20 to 30 minute walk outside if the weather allows. Afternoon. A balanced lunch rich in protein and fiber, grilled salmon, quinoa, and steamed greens are favorites. Collagen peptides in tea or soup. Light activity, housework, errands, or simple chair yoga. Evening. Herbal tea with ginger and turmeric. Light stretching before bed. Magnesium lotion on my knees or a warm soak if I feel stiffness. This routine doesn't take hours. It doesn't require fancy equipment or expensive treatments. It's simple, real, sustainable, and it works. It reminds me every day that healing is a journey, not a destination. Even now, at 76, I walk not just with ease, but with pride. Part 16. What I'd tell my younger self about joint pain. If I could sit down with my younger self, the version of me who was 60, still climbing stairs but starting to feel the occasional click, I'd gently say this. Don't wait for the pain to become your alarm clock. I wish I had known earlier that knee pain isn't just about age. It's a signal. A whisper from the body saying something is out of balance. That whisper becomes a shout if ignored. I would have told myself to pay attention to my gut, because inflammation often starts there. To move daily, not aggressively, but consciously. To befriend herbs like turmeric and ginger not just when I was sick, but as a lifelong tonic. I would have learned the difference between feeling tired and being inflamed. And I wouldn't have brushed off the tightness behind my knees, or the way I groaned a little louder each time I got up from the couch. But the good news is, awareness now is still powerful. Even at 75, I was able to reclaim a sense of control over my knees, my health, and my future. Part 17. If you're struggling, let me say this. If you're someone whose knees burn when climbing stairs. If walking feels more like surviving than moving freely. If you've been told, it's just part of aging, and you've started to believe it, please hear this. You are not stuck. You are not broken. And it's not too late. I wasted a lot of years blaming my body, feeling like I was falling apart. I accepted pain as a roommate in my life. But when I stopped fighting symptoms and started supporting my body, everything changed. I wasn't chasing perfection or trying to be young again. I just wanted peace in my joints, ease in my steps, and the freedom to enjoy life again. It started small. A drink. A stretch. A change in breakfast. And 1 month later, I was standing longer. Laughing more. Sleeping deeper. Your journey may look different, but the invitation is the same: start small. Stay consistent. Trust the process. Part 18. My message to anyone who wants to walk without pain. I never imagined I'd be telling this story. I thought my future would be filled with walkers, orthopedic appointments, and sitting on the sidelines. But the story changed when I took action. Now, I walk every morning with quiet knees and a full heart. I grocery shop alone. I climb stairs. I even play a bit of catch with my grandkids when they visit. That clicking, grinding, burning feeling that once ruled my life? It no longer does. So if you're still in the early stages of joint pain, don't wait. If you're in the thick of it, don't give up. And if you've accepted it as normal, challenge that belief. Because healing doesn't mean perfection. It means progress. And you deserve that progress. Let your journey begin today. Whether it's with a turmeric mix, a quiet walk, a healthy meal, or just the decision to believe in better. Just begin. And one day, you too might say, my knees used to burn at 75, but now, I walk without pain.